Hi, my name is Patruni Chidananda Sastry and I'm a drag artist, and today I'll be coming ahead and sharing my story with Tales of Saksham. Thank you so much, Saksham, for inviting me. And before we kind of proceed further, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and from there we'll start off. Great. So while I'm kind of sharing my story of being a drag artist in Hyderabad, India, I would also thought it would be a very good idea to kind of go ahead and present kind of a makeup while I'm talking. So that is where you will be able to find how I process this as well. So shall we start with that? I'm putting my headband so that it kind of keeps my face as well as things tight. Okay, great. Works. So yeah, let's start with my journey, which is basically like I started my exploration of sexuality at the age of 3 or 4. That's when I was thinking I was a little bit different from the others, and there was always been this situation where people are not able to understand from where I'm kind of coming from, or I always felt that I was somebody from a different body altogether. But as and when I grew up, that's when I kind of started loving myself. So I think I would say that is the very first time when I was started realizing it. For me, my dance was something which actually helped me in coming out or exploring my body, my gender, my sexuality. So it was all because of dance. I was able to access dance at the age of 5. And that too is a very funny story. Basically, I was watching a Telugu Tamil dubbed movie called as Padiyappan, and in that there's this wonderful heroine called as Ramya Krishnan. So for people who don't know Ramya Krishnan, she is the one who lifted Bahubali on their hand. So Ramya Krishnan's old movie was definitely this Padiyappan, and she was very famous since then itself. In that, the hero is rejecting the heroine, and the heroine is very angry. So she screams out loud and dances. So I thought whenever I was a child, unless and until you scream out loud and dance, that's not, then only then you are angry, people will take you seriously. If you're not screaming out loud and dancing, people will think that you are not angry. You need to be properly angry. So whenever my mom was not giving me anything at any point in time, I used to scream out loud and dance. In one way, that became a way for my mom and dad to convince that dance is something which I really want to do. And at the age of 5 itself, I started learning classical dance, Kuchipudi. Kuchipudi has this very different tradition of men dressing up as women and performing. So I was doing that. I was learning Kuchipudi for around 6 years, and then performing in schools, colleges, my school, my fest and everything. It was a similar point in time when I realized that my gender was not something which was in place with the idea of cis heteronormity. I always felt that I was a little bit different from the other genders, people who are there in my school and college. So I think that was a time when I realized that I need to kind of I'm different. I'm indifferent from people who are there around. Having said that, I never had any chance of knowing or putting a label to it, because I didn't know what to call it. Because I know for sure that I was not a trans person. I didn't want to change my gender at one point in time. I was not aware about the trans umbrella, but I was sure that I was not rejecting my body. It was there. Having said that, I was having multiple attraction to multiple people as well, as in when I grew in my teens. I was having girlfriends, I was having boyfriends. I was able to kind of date both the genders and etc., which was happening. And at the same time, I was figuring out where am I placed in the gender spectrum. So all the things were there in my mind, but I never kind of realized. I couldn't put a word to it because I was not aware about the word, but I was just diving in deep into whatever I was kind of understanding or getting. So that was happening, and it was only after I turned 21 years of age, and that too post the entire period of time when I kind of complete my schooling, college and everything. I came back to Hyderabad, and for the very first time met acquired individuals over here who are doing events. And while they were doing that, that's when I realized there is something called as lgbtqi plus community, and people like me are the ones who are a part of it. So I started attending queer events. While I was doing that, I was also doing classical dance. So I was kind of managing, trying to bring classical dance into the queer spaces, and trying to, kind of demystify classical dance itself. Because for a while it was always talking about straight stories and not talking about, queer stories. So I was the one who was trying to talk about queer stories and bring an idea of how queerness can be used to kind of educate people with dance. So that was happening. It was going kind of good, and I was for the very first time when I attended a queer event in Hyderabad. It was around 2014 or 15. I was able to listen to a lot of terminologies or labels. These were like homosexual, heterosexual, pansexual, bisexual, trans, gender fluid, gender non-binary. So all these words were something which kind of came out because I was able to attend some of the events which were there or which were happening. So I was just listening and kind of giving an ear to it. I still didn't kind of come out. So while this was happening for a year, I think it's the same time when this 377 was kind of demolished, and that's the same time when we had news agencies kind of come and ask questions, which are basically like they started promoting the entire idea of queer liberation. So it was just the day when 377 was stricken down, and all the community people were at a space over here kind of celebrating it. There's a news article, so a news journalist who kind of came to me and said, what do you feel about it? I said like, yeah, I'm very happy and all that thing. And then after the entire quote which he taken, he has asked me, oh, what is your sexuality? I was clueless, and then like, what is your gender? And that was also something which was very clueless because I didn't come out then. So I came out to the person telling that, see, I think I'm gender fluid, and I'm also sexually fluid. So that is something which I feel, and I've been with the community, so I think I'm a part of it. The next day morning, I see the newspaper with big letters, 21 years of age, classical dancer comes out as gender fluid. And that is kind of making rounds in news. And that was the very first time I came out to the world at once, including my mom and dad. And for them, it was very, it was not surprising for sure, because they were already kind of dealing with me till then. But it was more of, they could figure out the word, what I was using. And then they came to me telling that, can you explain to me what exactly it is? Like, because we are not a native English speaking people. We haven't learned English as well. And this word is quite alienated to us. So it's your onus to kind of educate me and, tell us what exactly this means. And accordingly, we would be able to help you with the idea of supporting. So I told my father, gender fluidity is something where I don't feel one particular gender. I feel fluctuating between two of them, and I kind of educated them about what I feel or how I feel. And my father said just one thing: see, even if I might kind of not understand you properly, but whenever there is a pain or whenever there is a situation where you are alone or where you're not able to express yourself, always ensure that we are here to you. We are always, supporting you. We are always giving you that love and affection as a child. And if at any point in time, see, we are not born with a parental book, so it's your onus to help us in the situation as well. So I think that was the time when I realized the warmth which my mom and dad kind of shared, and post that. I was always kind of open to them about my sexuality and gender, whatever I was feeling. By the way, I'm doing my eye makeup now. And since then, I was kind of, that's how I kind of came out to my family as well. But after a while, I realized that the entire idea of gender fluidity, or the word, is being kind of caricaturedly used by the fashion industry to kind of tell anybody who is wearing a dress and calling them as gender fluid, and that was something which I really didn't like. And for me, it was as if somebody was ridiculing my gender identity. And then after a while, this entire disorientation with gender fluidity became a space for me to kind of not realize or not accept the label. I was very kind of frustrated with the idea that something like a gender orientation can be gimmicked into a certain way, and each and every time I said I'm gender fluid, people just thought that I was playing a dress up game, but not somebody who's actually feeling the idea of two genders. So that's the time when I realized that, this is not something which I really wanted to continue the label, basically. So I wanted to realign my gender to something which I feel safe, or I feel seen and heard. That's the time I was exploring the ideas of gender variance by multiple people. Some of my mentors who were there in Hyderabad. We had discussions. I was trying to listen to the terminologies which they use. Maybe that is what we say, gender non-binary spectrum or gender maverick. So something like that, they were the conversations which were happening. So I think I was just listening to those time and time again, and I was trying to align myself to that particular label. So after a certain point in time, I realized that I don't want to go with gender fluidity as a label. I want to go as a gender non-binary person, and I took the courage. And slowly and steadily, I learned about the gender non-binariness, or how exactly it falls into the trans umbrella as well. So in one way, right now I'm in a comfortable space to call myself as a trans person, a trans non-binary person, and ally with the idea of being a non-binary, as well as being a part of the community, or part of the gender spectrum. Having said that, I was always been a pansexual. That is another word which I figured it out in my entire journey of understanding or exploring. Now, what people think is like pansexual people, so unless and until I came out to people as pansexual, people were already assuming that I was homosexual person. Because I was doing drag, and I was more kind of visible in drag, and there were a lot of other things which were happening as well at the same point in time. So people always had this assumption that I might be somebody who is lying, or kind of soft playing my queerness, or homo-romantic attraction, by calling myself as a pansexual. People did agree when I was trying to say, my community people in Hyderabad did agree when I was trying to say I'm pansexual, but the world kind of blasted when I came out saying that I'm marrying a heterosexual person. Because people think that, if you're married to a heterosexual woman, you're not gay enough, or you are not, your bisexuality is not valid. Because in order to be queer, you need to be into the queer space itself, and you can't marry somebody who's straight or heterosexual. So I think that was a point of time which was a situation for me, because I was also kind of reiterating my idea of okay, what am I doing? Why am my sexuality is not considered as equal as like any other sexualities which have been there. So I think that was something which was happening. Now I'll tell you how exactly I met my partner, and how exactly I was able to kind of start my relationship. So I was kind of actively dating for a while, and after that I didn't, because I felt like I wanted something which is more than just a regular dating. So that's the time I went back to my hometown, which is but that's the time when the COVID kind of came in. And after the COVID itself, I could see that there was an Instagram account which was following me, and kind of commenting everything, or every post, liking, sharing. And I thought like this might be some creeper, because usually drag queens get a lot of creepers as well, who will kind of come ahead and try to bug you. So when I saw that for the very first time, I thought like that might be somebody who's a man who's trying to get access to my body, etc., etc. And I didn't realize that was my partner, who was my partner then, basically. And what exactly happened was, I was kind of ignoring, and after a while I went back to my hometown, which is in Vizag, and when I went back, I met this person for the very first time in a family get-together. The first conversation which she asked was, what is this art form called which you do? And that was my, that was the time when I immediately got connected, because that this person loves this, and then you ask that question so that you can kind of go ahead and, get an impression of the person. She was very smart, And so what she has done is she has asked me that question. I was already flatbound that she already know about a lot of things. I don't have to, hide or closet myself. So I said I do drag. This is how it is. I feel in this way, etc. So I was able to openly converse about it. And then we started talking. We started kind of interacting with each other. So that was something which was happening at the same time near time of the COVID. While this is happening as well, I thought like it was kind of going to something else, which is basically marriage. Yeah, I was kind of a little bit bothered about how exactly the life would be, because if you are moving forward, it's really important for her to know that I'm a bisexual person. So what I have done was, it's late night at around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. I was very reluctant about coming out to her, so I just left her a message that I'm a bisexual person. I just said I'm bisexual, and I sent a Wikipedia link about bisexuality. And then she comes back with another link from Tenver Project, which is basically about bisexuality, and she asks, is this what it is? I was kind of shocked, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what I was trying to say, that I'm bisexual. And then she's like, okay. Now that okay was something which was very confusing, because I thought like, okay, I'm done with it. There's nothing which is happening anymore. This relation is ended, etc., etc. That was something which I was thinking. And then the next day, so the next evening, the same evening, she calls me back. It's like, how are you? Have you completed your like dinner and everything? Very casually, very normally she was talking. I was like, what is happening? Does she know what I said? Did she take the did she take it correctly, or did she understand from where I'm coming from? That was the question which I always had. And when I asked her about the same, like, did you understand, or you are trying to acknowledge that I came out to you? And what she said is like, yeah, I understand. See, firstly, if you love me, your sexuality has nothing to do with the love which you are trying to give me, because you are attracted to me, you are loving me. That's something which is okay. You might be attracted to multiple other people as well, but at this point in time, are you feeling in love with me? That's the thing which is really important. And I think I didn't have any other question or thought to say yes, because firstly, I know that I would be happy with this person in the very instant. Secondly, I was not hiding anything with anybody. I was very open, very kind of conversing. So there is no guilt which was there in my head. And thirdly, I didn't know that. I felt that was right for me to be in a relationship. And then I said yes. And next 1 month, we convinced our families and we got married. So post that, when I said I got married to a heterosexual woman, that's the time when people came back and said, oh, you're not bisexual. Bisexuality is a myth. It should not be. We don't believe in the ideas of you marrying a heterosexual person, or you might not be telling her the truth. You are kind of hiding your sexuality. It might be a lavender marriage. At the same time, the badai do was also something which was there, and all this thing kind of came in, and I didn't know what to kind of react to, because it was very silly as well as personal. But I didn't react. It was my partner who came back and reacted. She was the one who said like, see, I know this, and I'm in terms with this, and we kind of came out to our community as well. We both went to an event in Hyderabad, and we were kind of regularly kind of presenting ourselves. And once people started seeing me with my partner, I think that's the time they realized that okay, this is a genuine relationship. There's nothing hidden. Both of them are aware. Both of them are adults, and I think from there we got the acceptance. But before that, it was very kind of murky. So that's how I had a partner. My journey with drag. I think this is also a funny story, because as I said, I was doing classical dance. I never wanted to do drag in the very first place, because I thought like it's very expensive art form, because you have to invest on costume, dresses, makeup and everything. With that, you also need to kind of invest your personal time. And I thought like drag was very simple to do. It was not something which is like a rocket science and anybody can do it. But my myths were broken when I went to Bangalore for Bangalore Pride. While I was performing classical dance, I was able to see another drag artist doing drag, and that's for the very first time I was in awe with the performance. And I thought like this is something which we need to have it in Hyderabad as well. What I have done is I started bugging people, telling them that, oh, I will teach you drag, come do drag, all these things. And I didn't want to do it. I will just say that I will teach you, I will kind of tune you and everything. There were a couple of people who kind of very very blunt on me, telling that if you can't do it yourself, how can you ask somebody else to do? And I think that was the time when I realized that I should by what is stopping me from doing basically drag, what is the inhibition which I'm carrying. So the question of why I didn't want to do was something which was answered then. And then I felt, okay, let me just start doing it. Let's see how exactly that goes. So I started doing drag on June 9, 2019. And from there, we were 3 people who were doing drag in Hyderabad. And we did first show over here. We expected 21 people to kind of turn up to the event. But on a whole, there were 500 people. The cafe was full. We were not able to sit. We were not able to perform, basically because it's a very small space. But we managed to kind of, pull out a good show. And I think that was the time when the entire idea of drag kind of bloomed in Hyderabad as well, all of a sudden. Now, one thing which I noticed is that my style of drag is a little bit different from what we usually see, because I really don't like to perform, exact femininity. So when I started doing drag in Hyderabad, I think I always want to break the bubble of beauty which has been kind of served. So I always try to bring the idea which is a little bit different from what the other drag artists basically do. I want to kind of cater to the idea of anti-beauty, which is basically like seeing beauty in a far more different way, far more non-gender specific, non-cis gazed, something which is like being somebody who is the idea of cleanliness, or the idea of like the cut crease, extensions, etc., is more of a way where it can be explored. So creating this alienated figure, creating this figure which is like kind of unpolished, easily available. So I think that was something which I was looking for. So I started learning about Tranimal Drag, which is a form of drag which talks about trashiness, shabbiness and all that thing, which is not perfect, which is basically like absurd in its own nature. So I started working on that part of drag, or that style of drag, and from there I picked up this kind of an aesthetic, and I also started inducing the idea of folk music within performance, because I think folk music has a better way of catering to the audience. It can kind of deeply dive in, and nowadays we are very kind of like fond of folk musicians. We are listening to folk songs, etc. So I think this was a very good space for me to kind of venture into and see if I could dive into the idea of folk music, and I could serve drag with a pinch of folk music. So that's how it started, and still now, like I'm still kind of working on creating new songs, working on Telugu songs, which will kind of give us more information, which will kind of cater to a better audience. So that was something which I've been doing, and I think I will continue to do that as well, as and when I kind of go forward. One thing which I want to tell is, like, drag is a form of art. It's not something which is like it's not mocking women or trans people. It's just a way where you dress up. You become the canvas of gender, you become the PPT, and then you go ahead and present it to the audience. And this has a very great power in inducing it. Like when I wear drag and kind of go in public, obviously everybody will see me, and when they see me, that's the time I will take their attention and give them a message which is really important to serve the society. So I think I become the PowerPoint presentation of gender for them to kind of understand and distract and tell them what we need to do. So I think that is something which drag as an art form is. It's very diverse. India is growing with very diverse drag artists across all the states, as well as all the metro cities, and everybody does something which is very different from each other. So I think that is something which is really a great space as of now to be in this country, to explore the idea of drag. And it's a freedom as well. Like when I'm dressing up and presenting in front of you, I'm trying to tell that, if I could look this gorgeous, if I could look this way, this is my gender, if I'm trying to portray this, you can do it yourself as well. You can be your absolute self. And if people start respecting or normalizing my existence, it will automatically normalize other people's existence, like the existence of trans people, the existence of people with women, the existence of how they kind of dress up. So I think drag kind of decentralizes the idea of gender performance, and more of an art form, and talks about politics, which is basically to kind of negate all the bookmarks or all the check marks which is there in the society. So I think that is something which the power of drag is. So I hope you understood the entire kind of journey which I went through, and this is my entire look. If you can see, I'm wearing a sari, a bandhani sari, as well as something on my top. So yeah, I hope you like the look. I hope you like the aesthetic of it, and thank you so much for inviting me and being a part of it. And do follow the page for more such stories. Thank you.